previous video, which you can check out by clicking on the link, we're going to talk about how to keep your lower back safe when you transition from a low plank to an upward facing dog. We're going to start with a quick anatomy lesson, but don't freak out. It's nothing too nerdy. It's just for you to understand how these body parts look like and where they are in relation to your body. And then we'll do a quick recap of the previous lesson, which is about transitioning from plank to low plank, and also upward facing dog. And then we will move on to the latter part of the vinyasa, which is the low plank to upward facing dog. I think this is important because a lot of people, actually as much as 80% of people, suffer from lower back pains at some point in their life. And the not so fun fact is that 25% of people younger than 40 will have some sort of this degeneration already, and it just gets worse after 40, because that number can rise up to 60%. And a lot of people actually go into yoga because of these back pains. And that means that a lot of people who come into yoga or start a yoga practice already have some sort of pre-existing condition. So whether or not you're one of those people, it's really important for you to understand how to keep your lower back safe when you're doing a yoga practice. So this is the lumbar spine. Just a few important things to note. The lumbar spine is composed of 5 vertebrae. So that's L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. L is obviously for lumbar. And as you can see, we have one side that's you can find this cylindrical structure called the vertebral body. And the spacer-like looking discs here between each vertebral body is the intervertebral disc. So a lot of people associate lower back pain actually in this area. So you might hear things like slip disc or bulging discs, herniated discs. That's one of the common causes of back pain and pain injuries. But there's also this side. This is actually the one on this side, the bony protrusions. That's actually what you can feel on your own body. So if you like, you can hold on to the middle part of your lower back. You can feel that bony protrusion there. That's actually your spinous process. That's the one you can feel along the midline. And on both sides of your spine, there's another bony protrusion called the transverse process. It's much more difficult to palpate. You might have to really dig in to be able to feel this bony protrusion, but it's there. And then the other common site of injury or degeneration is the facet joint. It's not actually labeled here, but as you can see, the vertebrae are stacked on each other on the bony protrusion side, and each connection here between those bony protrusions, it's called the facet joint. So there's also a lot of friction there because there's articulation in that part. So you can expect that some back pain injuries might also originate from there. And all these other parts, not really that important unless you you are really into anatomy, but it's just important to know that when you palpate your back, you can feel the spinous process, and as you go deeper, you might palpate the transverse process, and that the common sites for injury are the intervertebral discs and the facet joints. So let's just do a quick recap of our previous lesson. Remember that the previous lesson we were trying to protect our shoulders, elbows, and wrists. So from plank, hands are shoulder distance apart, feet are hip width distance apart. We shift forward for chaturanga. You can do a half push up, 90-degree bend, or if it's not there yet, you just do a baby bend. And then from here, all we need to do is point the toes and come up to upward facing dog. The reason why we prefer the baby bend rather than going all the way down is, if I show you, if you go all the way down, this actually puts your your shoulders in hyperextension, which is not a very safe position for your shoulder joint. So if the option to go half plank is not there, just a little bend is better. Even better than bringing your knees to the floor. This is a common modification when the chaturanga is not yet available. So a lot of people will go down. The problem with knees on the floor is that if you go here, then it's much more difficult for you to extend the legs and then go to upward facing dog. So that actually forces you to bend all the way down because it's easier, and then you find yourself in a cobra, which is not wrong, but if you have some lower back issues or pain, this might not be a safe option for you. So another reason why we try not to do a lot of knees on the floor during the chaturanga is because if you always have this option to bring your knees on the floor, you might never actually want to bring your knees off the floor because this is easy. And the problem with that is if you want to progress in your yoga practice, this position, this chaturanga position, is very important because it strengthens your shoulders, muscles of your back, muscles of your arms, your triceps, and those are all important for not just chaturanga but also for other more advanced poses like arm balances. And at the same time, if you're the kind of person who doesn't really do a lot of pushing of heavy objects in your daily life, you're missing the opportunity to actually strengthen your arms, back, shoulders. So that's the reason why we prefer baby bend. Now moving on to, like what I said, just the demo again, from baby bend or half plank. Now that your hips are in the correct position, all you need to do is point your toes and come up to upward facing dog. So your hips are free. It's a bit nerdy, but if your hips are down, that means the fulcrum is on your hip joint. So that means the pressure is on your lower back because the hips are very close to the lower back. If you put the pressure on the tops of your feet and point your toes, then there's not much pressure here in the hip area, and therefore not a lot of extension on the lower back. So if you look, my lower back is very curved, but if I come to the tops of my feet, my lower back is less curved. So if you have issues with your lower back, you might find that upward facing dog is much more comfortable for you. Not to say that COBRA is wrong, but just something to think about when you are having some lower back pains, so that you can have a more comfortable yoga practice. I have just one bonus tip for you. When you are in your upward facing dog,
a lot of people complain about knee pain. So one way you can address this is to strongly engage your legs, especially the quads, because one of the quadricep muscles is actually connected to your knee. So the reason why you might be having some pain here is due to instability of the knee joint. So if you strongly engage the quads, it protects the knees because it keeps it strong and stable. So that's one tip that you can try. Just remember that this is your yoga practice. So maybe you can try out these suggestions in your next vinyasa class. But at the end of the day, you are your best yoga teacher. So give your body what it needs, understand and learn to listen to your body, and find what works for you. I hope that helps. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more, please subscribe or drop a comment down below so you can give me some suggestions for future videos. And of course, feel free to share this with whoever you think will learn from it. And if you're interested in one-on-one yoga, private yoga lessons, you can email me at coachkyoga@gmail.com or direct message me on Instagram at coachkyoga. Stay safe, strong, and bendy. See you next time.